Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Abraham, and I'm the president of Accepted and the moderator for today's event. Here we go. Showing my screen now. Welcome to our Ask Me Anything with Dawna Levenson, MIT Sloan's Assistant Dean for Admissions. Now, a few valuable pieces of information before we start. Dawna or I may ask a few questions during the AMA and ask you to raise your hands in response. You can do so by clicking on the hand icon, two icons underneath the horizontal orange arrow on your control panel. Please raise your hand if you would like to earn your MBA at MIT Sloan. Okay, well, most of you are here for the right reasons. Good, and figured out how to click on that hand icon button. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. Now, next point is we like to learn a little bit about you before we start. So I have a couple of polls. First one will appear on your screen momentarily. There you go. When are you planning to apply? Round 2, round 3, next year, or not sure? Okay, again, the options are round 2, round 3, next year, or not sure. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. With 80% participating, the results are 65% for round 2, nobody for round 3, 20% for next year, and 15% not sure when. Okay, so you got a lot of people here who are very interested in applying shortly. And the next question I have for you is, what industry would you like to work in? Consulting, financial services, tech, social enterprise, or other? Okay, and again, we have a very participatory audience today with 92% having voted. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So we have 21% in consulting, 17% in financial services, 33% want to go into tech, 8% social enterprise, and 21% other. Okay, again, pretty diverse group here in terms of goals. Last question I have for you is, where are you located in the question window, please? Could you put city and state if you're in the United States, and city and country if you're outside the United States? Right, in the question window, please tell us where you're located. Again, city and state if you're in the United States, and city and country if you're outside the United States. Okay, so we have Kuwait, Mexico City, Mexico, Bogota, Colombia, Gurgaon, India, New Delhi, New York, Bangalore, Bhopal, Erie, Pennsylvania, Mumbai, San Francisco, Accra, Ghana. Wow, we have Asia, Africa, South America, North America. Anybody in Europe? We have Middle East, Caracas, Seoul, San Francisco. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce Dawna Levenson, who will be presenting a little bit about MIT Sloan, and then responding to your questions about the full-time MBA program. Dawna is currently the Assistant Dean of Admissions at MIT Sloan School of Management. As the co-lead of the team, she shares responsibility for all recruiting, evaluation, conversion, and marketing activities in support of the MBA and the Sloan Fellows, MBA, Masters of Analytics, Masters of Finance, Masters of Science and Management Studies programs. Prior to this role, Dawna was the Director of Admissions for 5 years and the Associate Director for the Masters in Finance Admissions for 1 year. Dawna came to admissions from the MIT Professional Education Office, where she managed the Advanced Study Program, the Career Reengineering Program, and a collaboration with Accenture's Solutions Workforce. Dawna has worked closely with the admissions office reading MBA applications for 4 years before joining the team full-time and brings a wealth of admissions and recruiting experience to the team. Prior to MIT, Dawna was a partner at Accenture, where she spent 18 years. She holds an SB and SM degree from MIT Sloan. Here's what we're planning for the next 50 minutes or so. Dawna has prepared a short presentation. Following the presentation, she'll answer your questions. You can post your questions at any time during the webinar in the question window. I'll choose those questions that I feel have the broadest applicability. I'm also planning to unmute those questioners whose questions are chosen so that you can speak your question. And if there's need for a little bit of follow-up, we'll be able to do that easily. If you do not wish to be unmuted, please just add the word no mic or don't unmute to your question, and then I'll just read your question. I'm going to go by the applicability of your questions, not whether you write mute or unmute. That will not have no bearing on anything here. All right, and with that, Dawna, I'm going to turn the mouse over to you, and you can move the slides forward.
Great. Thank you, Linda. I'm not seeing my slides.
Yeah, let me.
Okay.
Oh, I know why. Okay, wait a minute.
While you're doing that, let me just also say hello to everyone. Thank you so much for calling in today. It sounds like we have people from all over the world and therefore all different times of the day and night. So I really want to thank you all very, very much. As Linda mentioned, I co-lead admissions at MIT Sloan. My colleague Rod Garcia, with whom I share this position, is actually somewhere on the other side of the world interviewing right now for round one. So he sends his regards. And hopefully, as Linda said, I'm going to spend maybe 15 minutes giving you a little bit of an overview and then really focus the majority of the time answering any questions that you might have.
All right, so I can make you the presenter. You have the slides open on your screen, Dawna?
I do. Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Can I try? Oh,
yeah,
nope,
try
I
now.
lost it.
Try. You should be able to show your, because are you showing your screen, Dawna? There you go. No?
Nope, I have no slides.
All right, then I'll do it. Okay?
That's fine. I'll just let you know.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry.
So the first slide you're going to see in a minute is actually the mission statement of the MIT Sloan School. And we often begin with this in any presentation because it's so important for us to convey to you that we really are a mission-driven school. You can obviously read this. I want to tell you what it means to me. To me, this is really about developing principled leaders who are going to tackle the world's greatest problems and make the world a better place. And as you will see, this theme is built into our curriculum. It's built into activities outside of the classroom, and it's built into our alumni base. And it's really very important to us to share this with you right up front. Next slide. So we also have a portfolio of programs, and a little history on this would be that back in 2007, when our current dean, Dave Schmidtlein, joined MIT Sloan, he was charged with increasing the footprint of the business school. At that point in time, the only programs that existed were as you can see, the MBA, LGO, and SF MBA, so sort of in the middle to the right. And so one thing that he could have very easily done would have been, in fact, to increase the footprint of the MBA program. He was adamantly against this. He felt very protective of the size of the MBA program, which when MBA program on its own is about 350 students, LGO is another 50. So together they make up about 400 students. And that size, which I'm sure you're all doing your homework, you'll know is somewhere in the middle of the size of a typical MBA program, really helps define who we are as a school. With 400 students, it is very easy for you to get to meet all of your classmates and to really get to know them. You will also find that during the course of your first year, you'll get to know second year students. And when you become a second year student, you'll get to know first year students. So he was very protective of that side. As a result, we created additional programs around that. You can see we created to the right an executive MBA program, which is a 20-month part-time program. And then we also created a Master of Finance program, which has just seated its 11th class. We graduated our 10th class. And also a Master's in Business Analytics, which is now 4 years old. Just this past year, we introduced our MBA early application process, which is a deferred admissions process to the MBA program, where as a college senior or graduate student who has not worked full-time, you are actually able to apply to the MBA program now, and then once admitted, go and work for 2 to 5 years and join us when the time is right for you. So that's our portfolio. And one more point on that, why this is important is because based on the structure of each of our programs, there is in fact an opportunity that you may be in class, an elective class, with people from most of these programs. Not necessarily the executive MBA because it is a Friday, Saturday program, but all of the others. If you get involved in the community through clubs or conferences, you could also engage with people from other programs. And this is very much by design because, again, going back to our mission, in order to really tackle some of the world's greatest problems, you need people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different areas of thought to really, really make a difference. Next slide. So today, I'm going to focus on the MBA and the LGO programs. And together, they make up our overall MBA cohort. LGO is 2 degrees in 2 years. So you receive an engineering degree from one of our 7 different engineering disciplines, as well as the MBA. And the MBA is our traditional 2-year MBA. As an LGO student, you will be part of our 1 semester core with our other MBA students, as well as taking subsequent electives. So that's one of the first points I want to make sure I make. Our MBA program has a 1 semester core and then 3 semesters to really shape the curriculum based on your own personal interests. As you can see on the right, we have 3 tracks. So we have a track in entrepreneurship and innovation, a track in finance, and a track in enterprise management. Should you be interested in any one of these areas, think of it as a roadmap for electives that you would take after your first semester. We also have 3 certificates. We have a certificate in healthcare, sustainability, and analytics. Now, one of the differences between the 2 is that while the tracks are very specific to our MBA students, the certificates are available not only to the entire Sloan community, but to the entire MIT community. And yes, I know many people ask this question, it is possible for you to design your curriculum in such a way that you do 1 track and 1 certificate. You can imagine wanting to do the finance track and then apply it to the healthcare space, or do the entrepreneurship and innovation track and wanting to make sure you have an in-depth knowledge of analytics. So there's many different scenarios here. The only thing I would encourage you to do is, if you're interested in this, you need to do some advanced planning just to make sure that you're scheduling the right classes at the right time in the semester that it's actually taught. In addition, you can see we also have 3 dual degrees. One is the LGO, which I mentioned. A second is with the Harvard Kennedy School, where you can pursue a master's degree there, which is a 2-year program, as well as the 2-year MBA. And together, you can shave off 1 semester for each, and so complete the 2 degrees in 3 years. We also have a joint degree similar in nature with our Department of Urban Studies and Planning, where you can also pursue a master's in urban planning, as well as your MBA, and shave a year off of that as well. Thank you, Linda. In addition, I want to talk a little bit about who we are, not only while you're at MIT and MIT Sloan, but once you graduate. So as an MIT Sloan student, you're also a member of the MIT community, and therefore you are both an MIT Sloan alum as well as an MIT alum. And we have a very powerful global alumni network. As an MIT Sloan alum, you join a network of 24,000 people worldwide in over 90 different countries. As an MIT alum, that is much larger. It's 136,000 people worldwide with over 95 MIT and MIT Sloan clubs, alumni clubs around the world. These clubs offer social as well as academic programming, and clearly create that focal point for that network, that alumni network for you to engage in. I think what's really interesting is if you look at the right side of this slide, these three stats. So there are over 30,000 active companies that have been created in connection with MIT. That has generated over 4.6 million jobs with a total annual revenue of over $2 trillion. If you were somehow able to put a fence around this and call it a nation, MIT nation, it would be the 10th largest economy in the world. So the impact that MIT students and MIT alumni make is relatively significant. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about the application process itself. So let's look at the right-hand side in the deadlines. For those of you who might be interested in our early MBA, it's actually, the deadline is April 6th, 2020. For the MBA, round one is already passed. Round two deadline is January 21st, and I was really happy to see that those of you who are thinking of applying this year are in fact thinking about the January deadline. And then round three is April 9th. But to be honest, if you are on this call today and thinking about applying this year, I strongly encourage you to apply in round two if you haven't already applied in round one. And let me tell you why. It's not because we have quotas, it's because we don't have quotas. Throughout the application process, at any point in time, what we are looking to do is to admit the most qualified people based on the number of seats that we have available. So in round one, we had 350 seats available, roughly. By round two, I actually don't know yet how many seats we'll have, but I can assure you that it's less than the number of seats we had in round one. In addition, I know people like to better understand and perhaps how to hedge the system in terms of the number of applications we receive each round. It's pretty much evened itself out over the years. And so what this also applies to, though, is round two versus round three. By the time we get to round three, we have very few seats to fill. And so, again, you are on this call today. I strongly encourage you to apply in round two. For those of you interested in the LGO program, our round two deadline is December 2nd. Please make note of that. It is a different deadline than the MBA round two deadline. If you are interested in LGO, I encourage you to apply through the MBA program as opposed to through the engineering department, because if you apply through the MBA program, you will automatically be considered for the two-year MBA should you not be admitted to LGO, and in particular in the engineering part. Let's look at the application. And I'm guessing based on the, no, stay here, thanks. And I'm guessing based on the number of you who are applying in round two, this is what you're most interested in. So let me spend a few minutes on this. I think it's really important to say right up front that there are no tricks to our application process. It is pretty straightforward, and it's really all about us getting to know you and you getting to know us over the course of the process. We ask for a resume, a professional resume, a cover letter, an org chart of your current work where you are. And we really, I think it's good to think about the org chart almost more as a relationship map of yourself. And so put yourself in the middle of the page, and then, you know, think about who reports to you, who are your peers, who do you report to, and draw it that way. We're not, there's no wrong answer to this. That's very important. And we're not looking for the standard, fairly generic org chart that you may find on a company website. In particular, if you come from consulting, we certainly don't want the org chart that's on the consulting website that shows a typical career path. We'd be much more interested in the org chart from perhaps a current project or a most recent project. We are now down to one letter of recommendation. One. So make it a good one. We're looking for, it's a professional letter of recommendation. It's not a character reference. And ideally, it's somebody for whom you work. However, we know that there are situations where people may not yet be ready to tell their supervisor or their manager that they're leaving yet, and so that they don't want to ask that person. We completely understand it. But please think about somebody who is exposed to, is impacted by the work that you do on a daily basis. It could be a customer, it could be a client, it could be somebody within your organization who is willing to take the time to write a thoughtful and relatively detailed letter of recommendation on your behalf. We encourage you to identify them up front, to reach out to them, to give them enough time to write a meaningful recommendation. It is due on the same day as the whole rest of the application. You may even want to share your resume with them. You want to have them, excuse me, have them understand why it is you're applying to business school. The one thing that I do ask, though, is that you don't write it on their behalf. We understand that there could be circumstances that come up where a recommender may say, I think you're great. I'm ecstatic that you're interested in business school. I'd be happy to support you. I'm just so busy. Could you write a draft for me? And we're really encouraging you to say no. In fact, I've been told specifically by schools not to do that. If for some reason your interviewer is not comfortable writing in English, I'm sorry, not your interviewer, your recommender is not comfortable in writing in English, then they can write in their native language, and then you can have it translated. Again, the only thing we ask is that you yourself is not the person who translates the letter of recommendation. If you are part of a family business, we also do not recommend that family members are recommenders either. So enough on recommendation letters. Academic transcripts. We ask for academic transcripts from all institutions, universities that contributed to you receiving your degree or degrees. We do have many people who apply who have a graduate degree, and we would like to see those grades. If as a student you took a semester and went somewhere else and traveled, whether it be a semester or a year, or whatever that time frame is, we want to see those grades as well. We ask for a valid GMAT or GRE score, which means it was taken in the past 5 years. And I promise you, we do not care which one it is. We don't even do translation. We understand the value, what a series of GMAT scores represents, and we understand what a GRE score represents. 60-second video statement introducing yourself to your future classmates. This does not have to be professional quality. We suggest that you use your phone or have somebody else use your phone or their phone to actually record it. Feel free to get a little creative, but don't go crazy. And so, if you enjoy reading books and you maybe want to be in a setting of a library or a bunch of bookshelves, that's great. I've said this now many times, so I'm going to say it here as well. Last year, we had a lot of people applying who were passionate about skiing, snow skiing. And so they would film their video statement either on a mountaintop or even on a ski lift. And while we give them an A for creativity, the quality of the sound was not so great. And therefore, we lost a little bit of what they were actually saying. So sure, be creative, but not at the cost of the actual audio itself. The other thing I want to say, and I think this might be helpful, is you should think about the resume, the cover letter, and the video statement. Think about that as a package that together tells your story. The resume is your professional background, the video is a little bit more of the personal side of you, and the cover letter is why MIT Sloan. Because we're now down to one letter of recommendation, we are also asking you for 2 additional references, similar to when you apply for a job. There's no guarantee that we can actually reach out to these people, but I think it's important for you to let them know that you've shared their information with us. Also, we would never, ever surprise them. So in the event that we want to speak with somebody, and why would we do that? Perhaps, for the most part, we think you're a great candidate. We might still have a little bit of uncertainty or a few unanswered questions. We may choose to reach out to one of these references. What we would do then is we would email them and ask them to set up a time with them that is mutually convenient. Finally, all applications are reviewed immediately after the round deadline. So for round 2, which is January 21st, if you submit your application today or on January 20th, it's not going to be reviewed at least until after January 21st. A subset of those people who apply are then invited for an in-person interview. Interviews are a required next step in the process and by invitation only. For round 2, similar to what we're doing now for round 1, we pretty much travel the globe to hub cities to make it relatively easy for you to meet with us. for an in-person interview. Regardless of where you are, anyone invited for an interview is welcome to come to campus for your interview. And depending on if classes are in session, you could attend a class, have lunch with current students, so we make a little bit more of an experience for you. Finally, for those of you who are invited for an interview, you will also receive a short answer essay that you'll need to submit 24 hours prior to your interview. This essay reinforces the mission of the school and then asks you, and as part of that mission, we feel creating a diverse environment is so important, asks you to describe a previous situation where you contributed to the diversity of an organization or group. That's it. One more thing around interviews is we work very, very hard. I guess two more things. One is we work very hard to send out interview invites at a minimum of 1 week before the actual interview dates to give you time to be able to actually schedule your interview. However, keep in mind that we need to review a lot of files and schedule lots of interviews. And so we will actually send those out, interview invites out in multiple batches. And that has zero reflection on you and the quality of you as an applicant. It's simply from a processing standpoint, we need to continue to get through the pipeline of reviewing and inviting for interviews and signing people up for interviews, given how much we know you value that 1 week lead time. My final point on this particular topic is the length of time of an interview. So an interview is really a follow-up conversation. We may ask you questions about your application. We will ask you a series of behavioral questions about things that may have happened in the past, and we will give you the opportunity to ask us questions. That interview, that conversation may take, we schedule between 30 and 45 minutes. The length of time of the interview means virtually nothing. An interview may take 25 minutes, it may take 40 minutes. We completely understand how important this whole process is to you, but please don't read too much into something of which there's nothing there. We know that there are lots of blogs out there that people actually share information in their process, and in particular last year someone brought to my attention a posting that said, my interview with Dawna Levenson was 22 minutes. What does that mean? Does she not like me? I promise you, I could have decided that you were a great fit in that period of time. The length of time means nothing. So with that, let's move on. Oh, and I might have actually, Linda, already covered a lot of the next page. Let's see. Oh, so evaluation process. All applications are reviewed. What do we look for? So I think that's a great question. Think about it this way. The application, the written application itself, really helps us assess your capability, your capability to be successful in the classroom. And then the interview itself is a little bit more around fit, and that goes both ways. How we think you would fit into the community and how well you think you would fit. At the end of the day, we're really looking for three things. Number one is he or she able to do the work? We would never, ever want to admit anyone to an MIT Sloan classroom who's not capable of doing the work. And so some of the areas where we find evidence of that are through your undergraduate GPA, your GMAT or GRE score, and the type of work you may be doing. Those aren't the only places, but those are the major places. In terms of fit, and then we're actually looking for, so academic ability. The second is really impact. Are you the kind of person who has made an impact and is going to make an impact both in the MIT Sloan community as well as out in the world? Remember what our mission is. We want to make the world a better place, and we want to be able to have each and every one of you positioned to do so. And so impact, again, we find evidence of that through the recommendation, through some of the work that you've done, some of your extracurriculars that you may have been involved in a variety of places. And then third is really around interpersonal skills. Are you, so much of the work that we do is in a team setting. Are you a team player? Do you work well in a team environment? The interview clearly plays a big part in that, but there's also evidence in various parts of the application that we can get from that as well. Our readers are who's the admissions committee? It's made up of a core group of admissions readers who've been trained over a period of time. It's nice, I believe, the youngest, not in terms of age, but tenure with us, reader that we now have has been with us about 5 years. So there's a lot of experience in here and a lot of calibration that's been done over the years. It's actually a mix of this core group of readers as well as people from our staff. And our interviewers is really a subset of our staff. So interviewers are not students, and interviewers are not alums. Our interviewers have full access to your application, and you'll see in preparation for the interview, they will have read through the entire application, notes from the reader as they prepare to speak with you. Our interview questions are, as I mentioned, some of them may just be follow-up questions from the application itself. The bulk of it will be behavioral questions about things that have happened in your past. So, tell me about a time you had to convince an individual or a group to do something one way and they really wanted to do it a different way. What was that situation and how did it resolve itself? Next page. Application insights. I've covered a bunch of these. Select a recommender who is your advocate. We accept GMAT and GRE. As I said, we do not care. The org chart, I talked quite a bit about it. There is no wrong org chart, and I promise you, nobody has ever been not admitted to our program because of what their org chart looked like. It's actually, though, very helpful for us because it helps to give some context around you and your role and how you may fit into an organization. The video statement, this is who you are. There's a personal side of you, and it does not have to be professional quality. And last but not least, and certainly one of the most important things not to forget, is be yourself. If in the end it doesn't work out, and sometimes it doesn't work out because you choose not to come, that's probably the best answer. You happen to be applying to business school at a time where there are many wonderful options, and I wish for each and every one of you that in the end, you end up at a school that is the best fit for both you and the school. I think that's it, Linda.
Okay, I muted myself. All right. We have lots of questions here. Dawna, thank you very much for extremely informative presentation. Very succinct, very to the point. It was great. All right, so let me start with the questions.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Oh, wait a second. My computer's not cooperating. Pratik, I'm going to unmute you. Just give me a second. You had a question very early on. Okay. This thing is not cooperating at all here. Okay, Pratik, here we go. You're unmuted.
Hi, Dawna.
Hi.
Thanks for
Hi, Pratik.
sharing.
Where are you calling from?
I'm from Mumbai.
Well, thank you very much. I'm assuming it's pretty late there.
Yeah, it's quite midnight now. Yeah. So my question is, I would really like to know what are the unique advantages of a MIT Sloan MBA program that you might want to highlight so that we can understand the key insights that we can get from the program.
Love it. Thank you so much for asking that. I actually didn't mention it. So thank you for bringing that up. The reality is the biggest differentiator for MIT Sloan is in fact the MIT in MIT Sloan. We are an integral part of the MIT campus and community. As an MIT Sloan student, if you choose to live on campus, there is no guarantee that your roommate would be a Sloan student. Your roommate could be a PhD in physics. You can take electives throughout the institute and vice versa. So you could be in a finance class next to a PhD in, I don't know, biology. You can participate. So I mentioned the LGO program, which is a great example. But in addition, the 3 certificates that we house that are available to people throughout the institute. You can participate in conferences, clubs, lectures, you name it. You can engage in as much of the MIT community as really, interests you. And to me, That really is our biggest advantage.
Great answer.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Pratik, for the wonderful question. Okay, the next one is KN. I'm going to unmute you, KN. You had a question about work experience. There you go.
And I just want to put it on the next slide so they can see the Stay Connected slide. Just advance the slide.
Sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
No, thanks. Perfect. I'm sorry. Go
Hi
ahead.
there. Hi there. My name is Karthik.
Hi.
Yeah, I actually have a question regarding the work experience. I wanted to ask, do the people who wish to transition into another industry, say consulting, who haven't worked in a very well-known brand in their own country, say India, and wish to get an ROI and ultimately start up going back to their own country, still need to have 4 to 5 years of work experience just because the employers seek that?
So that's actually a great question. So our students have on average 5 years of work experience. I know that's what it's stated everywhere in our profile. That's what it is, the average. I think it's important to note, though, that our students have the middle 80% of our students have somewhere between 2.5 and 8 years of experience. So we do, in fact, have people in our program with less than 5 years of experience.
So the people who want to transition into the industry with 3 years of work experience, maybe if they apply next year. So that chance. And just one more follow-up question that I had is that any advice for the applicants from the overrepresented pool other than improving their GMAT score to improve their profile and present themselves more properly?
So I have to be totally honest. I think the advice that I give to anyone, regardless of where you may be from, is the same. In the end, I think to present a really strong application is to, first of all, it should all hang together well. And so, as I mentioned, the cover letter and the resume and the video, think of those three things together. You need a really strong recommender, somebody who is really going to take the time to write a meaningful recommendation. Yes, we'd love strong scores. I mean, the truth is, we understand that given the amount of the questions that we ask, you're not going to be able to possibly tell us everything about yourself that you would want us to know, but yet you should tell us enough to make it compelling enough for us to want to know more. We do interview. I'm not, we interview a fair number of people in each round because we believe that plays such an important role in our decision making. And that's where we find a fair amount of differentiating data between individuals is around, how well you interview and how comfortable you are, speaking with somebody else and how engaging you are. Those are really important qualities to us.
Can I add something here, Dawna?
Sure.
Is that okay? Just if I say something really, yeah. All right. In my perspective, every applicant has to create present themselves through their application as a member of a group of one. It's harder for some people, definitely, but that is the challenge for every single applicant. So don't focus on what you have in common with a lot of people. Focus on the elements of your background, your experience, your goals, your fit with MIT that are distinctive to you. Authentically so, but still more distinctive. Anyway, I'll be quiet now.
I may have to borrow that. Thank you, Linda.
Okay.
Just last question that I wanted to ask.
Okay, that's going to have to be it because there are a lot of other people waiting. Okay.
Yes, that's the last one. Yeah, sure. Does the MIT admit people for a second MBA? That's a short.
So if you already have an MBA?
Yeah.
So we have on occasion, you need to share with us a really compelling argument as to why you need it.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Excellent questions, but we want to move on. Okay, let's see. Christina, I'm going to unmute you. You had a question about the additional essay. There you go.
Hi there. Yeah, my question is about the additional essay that you all send out to people before the interview. I was just wondering if you you could add a little bit of context about how that's evaluated, and if, like, you know, the only person who sees that is the interviewer, and how that sort of all pieces together.
Yep, no, that's great. And in fact, it's so timely because this morning before this call, I just did 7 interviews for round
gosh.
1. So, yeah, so I'm going to be totally honest with you. There's 2 parts to that. One is really an opportunity for us to continue to signal to you just how important the mission is. Diversity in our community is also really important. So it's a great way for you to demonstrate to us how you contribute to the diversity of an organization. Initially, that essay is really only reviewed by your interviewer. And for me, I really enjoy reading these, and more often than not, this becomes my icebreaker. When one of the first questions that I'll ask is to talk to somebody is to expand on this essay, because what I find is that a lot of people use this, they're sharing something that they're very passionate about and that's very important to them, and so it's an easy thing for them to talk about. As we continue through the evaluation process, so once everybody interviews, we then do our interview write-ups. We then have an admissions committee that then takes the recommendations of the interviewers, and it has to go through all the next steps. On occasion, we will go back to that essay if there's something more that we as the interviewer want to share with the rest of the admissions committee, to reinforce our recommendation for the individual.
Okay, great. Here we have a question from Anna, and she asked that I don't unmute her, so I'm just going to read it.
Yep.
It's according to your 80% range, GMAT scores under 700 could be not as attractive. What would be your recommendation to a person with a 650 to 680 GMAT score, strong in math, weak in verbal, taking into account that there is always a possibility of continued studying and applying next year?
So I'm guessing you took the middle 80% off of our fact sheet or off of the website.
That would be my guess. Yeah, that's what she did.
So what that means, though, is that there's 10% of the class that has below whatever that is, a 650 or 680 GMAT. Right. So there's nothing that's preventing anybody from applying. And clearly, if there are other aspects of your application that are incredibly strong, and there are other aspects that give us the confidence that you'd be able to be successful in the classroom, then that's fine. The bottom line, though, is, and I think everybody's aware of this, whether you're applying to MIT Sloan or any other school, it's extremely competitive in every aspect. I would think you should have the mindset that every aspect of your application is the best it possibly can be.
Okay, great. So I am now going to unmute, let's see. Yash, okay. And Yash, you had a question about the early admission program.
Nice.
There you go.
Hi. So I had a question about the early admissions program. So since we do not have any full-time work experience, do academics play a larger role in the evaluation? And what I'm looking for?
Yep. So I'm going to actually say no, they don't. Because the application for MBA early is very similar to that for the 2-year MBA. In the end, we're looking for evidence of the same different competencies, relationship building and leadership skills. Perhaps we've toned it down a bit in terms of the quantity of evidence that we're looking for, and we've definitely adjusted where we might find that. So for relationship building, we may be looking for it, at the workplace for somebody who's been working for 3 to 5 years. And for a student, we're looking for it through clubs and other activities that you may have done at school. But, we're only 1 year through. And so I'm actually thinking about our processes last year. And I actually don't think we put heavier weight on academics than we did on other things.
Okay. So Thank you very much. Great question, great answer. And now I'm going to turn to Javi. I think I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm going to unmute you. No, you are muted, so I can't unmute you. So I will just ask your question. Your question is, how much of recruiting is driven by career services versus student clubs?
Oh, I don't know the actual answer to that. I don't know a percentage. I know, and you actually missed a third part, which is just the individual and
Individual.
engaging
Yeah.
with our alumni network is a really big part for many people. I actually don't know the answer to that. I know that our career development office spends a significant amount of time working with employers, bringing them on campus, having them, host info sessions, facilitating whatever their current state is of how they are doing interviews. But I also know that a lot of our students will get their, whether it's their summer internship or a job, by networking with the help of the career office and with the help of the clubs with our alumni network. In fact, the career development office just hired somebody. They actually hired them away from us. And you're probably wondering why Shauna is not on the call with me, because well, she just moved over to work for the career development office as that point of contact between alumni and our students. It's a great
Okay.
job for her.
Wonderful. Okay. So Javi, thank you for the question, and we're going to move on. Next question is from Haley, and it's about the org chart. Here you go,
Okay.
Haley. Haley?
Hi. Thanks again for the time today. I just had a quick question around the org chart and how you would prefer we differentiate between like direct and indirect reports, and if that actually matters.
Oh. I'm sorry, I had a tickle. I took a drink and then I swallowed it wrong. So give me one second.
Sure.
No, you're totally fine.
You
Don't
want to
worry.
get another drink, maybe?
Yep, I'm good. I'm good. Yep. So Haley, one way to do that would be with a straight line versus a dotted line.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure if that was straightforward, or if you wanted a different approach
Nope,
to
that's
it.
easy enough. And then of course have a little legend on the bottom that says
Mhm.
straight line is direct and dotted line is indirect. Not a problem at all.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. And next question is from Kemar. I will unmute you, Kemar. Do you want to get another drink?
I've got it
Okay.
by my side.
All right. As long as you're okay. He muted himself. All right. I'm gonna speak the question then. You mentioned that the cover letter should focus on, quote, why MIT Sloan. Does that mean exclusively talking about what we like about MIT and what we want to take advantage of at MIT, or should we focus on talking about our personal professional impact? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's probably a little bit of each. And again, we understand it's 300 words, so it's not a lot. But like a cover letter to an employer, it's about why you're the right person for them to hire. And so in order for you to be the right person for them to hire, it's a little bit about you and it's a little bit about them and how that's the right fit. The same for us, why we should admit you.
Okay, great. Let's see, we got some other questions here. We've had several questions. I'm not going to unmute the speakers in this case about scholarships for international applicants.
Yep. So we offer merit-based fellowships. They're actually, all of our students who apply are eligible for them, regardless of whether you're a US citizen or not. And there's no additional essay or anything that you need to submit for us. In addition, we, in terms of financing your MBA, we do have several lenders with whom we have relationships with whom we connect you with, where you do not require a co-signer.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. This is a question from Leon. Leon, I'm going to unmute you since you didn't say not to. And it's a question about the GRE. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Leon. So I have a quick question about GRE score. So my GRE quantitative is already met the average of the LGO program, but my verbal is not good enough. Right now it's due to my heavy workload of my current job. I need to work about 10 hours per day. So I don't have enough time to prepare myself for the GRE test. So just thinking how important of the GRE test compared to the whole package.
So it's definitely one of the things that we ask you to submit and one of the things we're looking for. I'm not going to say it's not important.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
One follow-up question.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the other question I have is in the LGO page, you only show the GRE quantitative score. So does it mean verbal make less important to the whole
Wait,
package?
no, wait, where are you seeing this?
In the LGO program,
Oh,
the
for LGO?
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
They're only asking for GRE quant on the application?
Oh, it didn't say only GRE quant, but it only showed like previous student profile. Says the GRE quantitative is 166.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking how important of the verbal is.
Yeah,
I guess
so
they're both
it is
important.
important. I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to say it's not important.
Okay,
Okay.
understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. All right, here's a question from Mishari, and I'm going to unmute Mishari. There you go. It's about candidates getting rejected after an interview. Go ahead.
Sure.
Mishari, you there? No. Okay. Question is, what would be an example of the things that would get a candidate rejected after an interview?
Oh, so I guess, so first of all, having a great interview is not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to be admitted. The reality is, more often than not, we have more qualified people for our program than we have seats. And so then we have to look at many, many different things to determine exactly who to admit. But I can tell you things that, aren't a great interview. Number one would be very difficult to actually get the conversation going. So you're sitting there in an interview and you're giving one word answers or very short answers. You're not making eye contact. You're looking away. Not directly looking at the person with whom you're talking. You make inappropriate comments or gestures which show a lack of business judgment. In the end, it needs to be an engaging conversation. When we ask you if you have any questions, you hadn't really thought about it, and so you don't. So it shows perhaps right or wrong, it could be interpreted as a lack of interest if you haven't spent enough time preparing for your interview and coming with 2 or 3 meaningful questions that aren't easy to get the answers to on the website. So those are a couple of examples.
Okay, great. All right, here we have a question from Jitesh. It's about the LGO, and I'm going to unmute him. Here you go. Jitesh, you're on.
Hello, good morning. Hi, thank you for having this session and letting me ask this question. So my question was directed at the LGO program. It has 2 parts to it, right? One is the cover letter and one is the essay for the engineering department.
Yep.
Although the question states that you have to write it to Dr. Thomas Romer, who is the executive director at LGO. So should we in the cover letter focus on the LGO or only the Sloan piece of it, since we already have a dedicated essay for the engineering department?
Yep. So I think that the engineering one is pretty specific. It's to the extent that you'd be part of the LGO program.
You know what, Jitesh, can you turn off your speakers because we're getting feedback?
Yeah, just a second.
I can mute you. That would be the other option.
Yeah. Which engineering discipline are you interested in and why? And then for the cover letter, it's more about the overall program, which in fact includes the MIT Sloan piece and the MBA piece. Why are you interested in that?
I asked this also because, as you said in the conversation earlier, that if you're not admitted to the LGO program, the same cover letter will be used for your Sloan application as well.
Correct.
So that's where I just wanted to get an understanding. Should we focus exclusively there on the Sloan app and not the overall LGO program?
No. You should focus on a part of the LGO program is the MBA program.
Okay.
So by focusing on why you're interested in LGO as a whole, you should be covering the MBA part of it.
Yeah. Thank you. That answers my question. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question and the answer. All right, I'm going to unmute Malvika. And Malvika, you've asked several questions. I'm specifically unmuting you for the one about how MIT engages with employers. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the time. So my question is with respect to the career services, as well as I wanted to know how MIT engages with the industry employers so that students can get to interact with the industry employers directly and build a strong network while they're still doing their program.
Sure. So there's many touch points there. And in fact, it's not just through the career office. So we have many courses that are called our action learning lab classes. And in these lab classes, you're actually working on solving real problems for real companies. And in many, not all, but in some of these lab classes, some of the employers that people are interested in working for happen to be sponsoring action learning lab classes as well. So there's a touch point there. The career office also, though, brings companies on campus to host info sessions. We also have a career networking night. And we also, depending on the industry, will organize industry days. Like there was a New York Finance Day, and there's a West Coast entrepreneurship trip, visiting a lot of the larger tech companies on the West Coast. So they engage with us in a variety of different ways and give you the opportunity to connect and network with employers in many, many different ways.
Thanks for the answer.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the question and the answer. All right, there's a question here, several questions here about, does the program have any specialization with STEM certification, which could help with international students get longer optional professional training, OPT?
Not now.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. That was the answer there. All right. Thank you. And let's see.
And that answer used to just be a flat out no.
Okay. All right. And then we have a question from Miriam, who asks, how are international students, especially Africans, aided in coping with the change in environment, both academically and socially, I guess, when they come to MIT Sloan? She did not want to be unmuted.
Okay, that's okay. So
yeah,
we have a great orientation. So let me back up. So classes begin the very beginning of September. Throughout the month of August, there's a variety of different ways for you to begin engaging with the community in person. And so there's a series of pre-term courses that are offered that are optional, that help get people more comfortable with our classroom setting, and actually even refreshes in courses like econ and calculus that may help once the semester officially starts. The week of orientation is also really meant to help you get to more familiar with the environment and the setting and really getting to know your classmates before classes really gear up at the beginning of September. We also have, somebody mentioned clubs. So at any given year, we have between 60 and 70 clubs. And these clubs range from the purest of social to professional. And many of the professional clubs have a geographic focus. So there is, for example, as you mentioned, there's an Africa Business Club. And so many of our second year students who have been involved in the club will reach out to the first year students and provide either official or unofficial mentoring to them. And you mentioned Africa in particular, but there's also a Latin America club, there's an Asia club, there's a European club, you name it. And so I think we provide multiple opportunities for you to connect with different people who are either the same year or the year ahead of you, who have some similar background and interests as yourself, to make you feel at home as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. Thank you, Dawna, for the wonderful answers and fantastic presentation. Very informative. We're now at the hour point, and you've been very generous with your time and your answers. So I think we're just going to thank you and move on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Linda.
I also want to thank the AMA attendees, the applicants, for your time, your attention, and of course, your questions. As you leave, please take a moment to complete our short survey. We really value your feedback and we use it. So please do share it when you leave. You can review this webinar early next week online. I think Dawna gave a ton of information and insight in her short presentation, and you probably will want to review it again. We're going to send out an email letting you know when it's available. Thank you again, and best of luck with your applications. And Dawna, there's a lot of thank yous coming in here. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so now you can really go get a nice cup of hot tea. Take
I
care.
will.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.